Hey friends, I am sitting on the floor in my craft room. I'm about to work on the bug screens. If I can find a good angle, I'm gonna film that so you can watch how I hopefully figure out how to do this. I get the bus back in a few days. Yay! Super excited. It was starting to feel like this crazy fever dream, like, hey, you remember that time I thought I had a bus and I was like renovating it? Because it's been maybe 3 weeks, almost 4, somewhere in that range. I was sick one weekend, we were out of town for another weekend, so there hasn't been a whole lot of movement forward, but you know, that's okay. That's how things go. I will probably do a voiceover and catch you up on everything else. But I was kind of thinking a couple of things. One is converting a bus to be like a living space on wheels. I've again watched so many videos on other people's processes, but it kind of reminded me of like the therapy process. Particularly, like we get gifted or inherit or buy, you know, metaphorically, this bus that had a very specific purpose in its past and did that as well as it could. Most of the time it's fine. Might have been a few bumps or hiccups along the way, but now we're adults and we have to figure out our own purpose for the bus, and taking a look through of what are the assets, what are the resources, what works for moving forward, what doesn't, what do we need in order to live this life that we have planned for us, hopefully, or at least some kind of an idea. And I mean, sometimes we can just kind of like take the seats out, throw a mattress in, and just keep going, and that's good enough. Some people, like, that's fine for them. Sometimes it makes more sense to remove things, to look behind things, underneath things, to see if there is any potential lurking hidden dangers kind of thing, like long term down the road. And that's kind of what I was thinking about, some of the beliefs that we come out of childhood with. What makes sense for us to keep, what makes sense for us to change or to modify, what beliefs, if we hang on to them, can cause us trouble later on. So I mean, it's kind of like a half-formed metaphor. So that could be like the therapy process. And I mean, it's cliche, but a lot of times therapists ask about your childhood for a reason. And let's say a conversion process has been begun, started. That's like how lots of times when a person starts therapy, things seem to be real messy for a while. They'll say, you know, things get worse before they get better. There seems to be some truth to that, or at least it feels that way. Let's say after the conversion is done, we're always going to be a work in progress, and that's something that I hear a lot of people who have converted buses say, is that, you know, there's always going to be projects that you want to do or could do, or you know, purposes change and you can change as you go. You can add, modify, etc. But that's kind of where I thought coaching could come in. If you don't know, like, counseling, therapy is one thing, coaching is another, but they do have a lot of similarities. So let's say the people who have gone into this as a business, and a lot of people seem to have done, after they've done their own conversions, then help out others, and it kind of grows from there. Some people are kind of like specialists in this area, and that could be like a coach, like, oh, you have all the basics that you need, but you want like design tips or whatever, or just a little bit of guidance here and there, to make it just the version that you want it to be. So anyway, kind of a long rambling metaphor, but with a lot of different parts to it that I can see kind of as a parallel. Another thing I've noticed is that I have a lot of projects, not just the bus, but a lot of things that I have had in the works for a long time or are moving towards for the business in general. And there's been incremental progress in each area, but has felt lately like, okay, I'm not quite matching the efforts that I'm putting forth. I feel like I'm kind of just making a little bit of progress here and there, even though the effort feels like monumental. And really looking at why that is and coming to terms with my own neurospiciness, I think, as the kids say. Some executive functioning things that I've always attributed to trauma brain, and just kind of how I had to adapt in a lot of high stress, chronic stress, adverse childhood experiences and beyond into adulthood. So figuring out this idea that when I'm walking, you can barely even notice, like, I have this limp, let's say, like a metaphorical limp of the brain of like, oh yeah, I'm compensating, I can kind of keep going where I want to go, but the faster I try to go, the more that limp becomes pronounced and the compensation gets a little bit harder to do, and I'm not going as fast as I want. So I'm not sure exactly what that means moving forward. Maybe nothing, but it has been helpful to kind of see that a little bit more, like, in front of my face. I was telling somebody about the bus itself has brought a lot of like these abstract concepts to the forefront because it's a more concrete kind of thing. It's a more physical thing that, I mean, I spend a whole lot of time in my head, but just able to kind of have that contrast, kind of like I think in architecture it's called bas relief, but anyway, it's like kind of a, I don't know, you can look it up, but the more that you have that contrast, the easier it is to see. So take that for what it's worth. I'll get started on the screens now and catch you up. All right, thanks. All right, so unfortunately, it didn't work out the way I hoped. The glue that I was trying to use to put the binding on was too goopy. It was seeping through the fabric binding. So I think I'm going to try using a sewing machine, and then we'll see how that goes. Since it's almost fall, I'm not going to need the screens anyway, so I'll probably save it as a winter project when it's too cold to work outside. I'm going to set this quilted fabric to hopefully the windshield heat deflector and start with that, see how I like it. I think I might just use this pattern in the cab where there's going to be less visual things going on, because it's a very visual pattern. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, see which of the windows, etc., might get this treatment and which might not. I'm going to show you the evolution of the logo. I was playing around on Canva one day when I was productively procrastinating, and I liked this bus shape. I added the flames as like a play on the Hell on Wheels, but people thought it didn't really say healing, so I tried something more organic and tried to simulate, like, maybe I can make them look like flames, and then through suggestions of different people, have landed on the last two. Excuse me, the last two. And so I'd like your votes. Do you like the one with the like swoopy hearts, or do you like the one with the one heart at the end, kind of looking for movement? Let me know.